I just wanted the eternal, like the pain inside to go away. Like I was just craving that attention and craving somebody to just be like, okay, it's gonna be okay, but I wasn't getting that.
What Elizabeth Quitos was getting instead was physical abuse from her family. It started when she was 4, after her parents divorced and she went to live with her mom. It lasted for years.
Eventually, I thought it was normal growing up, that being beaten was part of a relationship or part of something that a child goes through. I tried to reach out for help, and I wasn't heard. And so it just kind of showed me that I wasn't loved, I was unlovable.
In addition to the abuse at home, Elizabeth was bullied and beaten up at school. So at 10, she turned to cutting.
Because I was so empty inside, and I was angry, and I was hurting, and I was finding ways to cope.
Although she went to church, she had no use for God. To Elizabeth, God was uncaring and vengeful.
If he's really here and he has your back and he loves you and he cares about you, then why is this happening at home? So I couldn't understand. And I don't want to serve that type of God.
At 14, Elizabeth decided she'd had enough and ran away to live with her dad.
What I was hoping to get being with my dad was love, protection. I thought I was gonna get an instant gratification and get that fulfillment and be happy, but it wasn't like that.
After just a few months, the now 15-year-old left home again. This time, she dropped out of school and moved in with a 27-year-old man she had met, who showered her with compliments and attention.
I felt like that he was gonna be there and take care of me. I thought it was what I needed from this man. And so I fell over heels for him, like I was in love with him.
He turned out to be a drug dealer who used Elizabeth in his drug business. He also got her hooked on meth.
I did feel like I was wanted, at some degree. But it was kind of like I was already starting to get numb. I didn't know what I want, because I was so lost.
Life would only get worse. A year later, the man ended up in prison on drug charges. Soon after, a woman showed up to run the man's drug business. She also had something else in mind: force Elizabeth into prostitution.
I didn't have any worth at all. Like every time I got in these cars with these men, I had to check out. It's like I had to disattach, I had to disassociate so I can leave my body and go through what I was going through.
For the next 10 years, Elizabeth was living on the streets, making money any way she could, and trying to stay high. She was in and out of jail a few times, yet nothing inspired her to change.
I was dying inside. I was dying, and I didn't feel like I was human, like I was loved.
Then at 26, she got pregnant and had a son. However, even being a mom wasn't enough to change her behavior. In October of 2011, Elizabeth was arrested for selling drugs. She was sentenced to 5 years and lost custody of her son.
When I lost my son, due to my last arrest, I started to wake up. I started to feel my emotions because I was loaded all those years. I started to realize that I, miss my son, that I have this baby that saved me, basically.
Sober and alone, Elizabeth knew she needed to change. She reached out to Brother Marty, a pastor who regularly visited the inmates.
So that's my first experience with somebody just loving me like how Jesus would, like how Jesus does, because he was hearing me and with no judgment, with no putting me down, calling me names. He was hearing me and hearing the pain I was going through. I needed somebody to hear me at that time, somewhere where I felt safe. I felt really safe with him.
She started attending Bible studies and kept meeting with Brother Marty. Soon, Elizabeth developed a new understanding of God and started to see herself differently.
And I started to love myself more. Like, even though loving yourself, especially with that type of background, it takes a while, it really helped me put my guard down.
Elizabeth earned her GED and was released to a woman's recovery program. There, she learned that the abuse and sexual trafficking was not her fault. She learned to forgive herself and others and continued growing closer to God.
And I felt this complete peace. And I felt like a supernatural awakening, like God's got so many plans for me. So I started to believe it. I started to have my own relationship with him. I was starting to feel really feel him.
Elizabeth surrendered her life to God, and in 2015, she was baptized. Then in 2018, after 2 years of fighting, She received a governor's pardon for her past convictions.
So that's like true redemption. I felt like I was being given a second chance, and like everything from my past is being erased completely. And so it was a miracle for that to happen for me.
Today, Elizabeth is happily married, earned a bachelor's degree, and has regained full custody of her son. She runs a safe house for trafficking victims and has found the love she always wanted.
I know God loves me unconditionally. Like totally, I know he loves me. He shows me all the time. For a long time, you know, I've worked with my mentors around letting go of condemnation, because I will feel so much condemnation, but that's because of my past. I do feel protection. I do feel safe because I know at the end of the day that he's gonna make sure everything works out.